Hey, baby, it's Bonnie DeShong, and this is Bonnie's Eye, where we have great conversations with interesting people. And, baby, today our conversation is with Mr. Philip Ashley Ricks, who is a chocolatier. And when I say chocolatier, I mean slap your mama in the back and hope she don't knock you down because his chocolate is the best I have ever tasted. Hi, Philip. How are you?
Hey, Bonnie, thanks so much for having me. I'm doing
Oh,
great.
no problem whatsoever. When I read about you, and of course, you being one of Oprah's favorite things and all the
Mhm.
great things you have done with chocolate, I said, okay, number one, I've never met a black chocolatier.
Right,
Number
right.
two, I couldn't figure out how in the heck did you get into this? So let's talk about you and you growing up and whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you a chocoholic or whatever? How did you grow
No,
up with it?
yeah. So just grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where I'm from, and that's where we are. Actually, as a kid, one of the things I loved the most, and I guess my first exposure to chocolate, was chocolate chip cookies. My mom would
Mm.
make those. Like if I were to do something good in school, or it was kind of like that reward. And so that, even to this day, that's my favorite cookie. So I think that was my first exposure. But I grew up around a lot of art and just kind of had this eclectic upbringing. My dad was a teacher for 40 years. My mom read a medical practice, but she was still into kind of artsy stuff. But I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. That's where I learned how to build things, learned how to cook, learned how to garden. And so that was really where just kind of my love of cooking came in. Started cooking at around the age of 5, just getting to mess around in the kitchen, and then just kind of kept that up. And I was just always really fascinated with fire, so it's like cooking was a way for me to play with fire. So in a safe way, I guess. And so that was really how I got into cooking. And then chocolate, my mom, again, I just remember me and my brother, 5, 6 years old. I'm 10, so 11, so I'm 5 years older than him. And we were just moving in the malls or doing things like that. So going around, my mom would be like, "All right, if y'all behave," and because we're young boys, we trying to run all over the place. She would give us Godiva back in the day. So this is in like the '80s. So '90s, even the big deal. So and of course at that time we didn't know what Godiva was. We didn't know Godiva was Godiva. But I just remember having truffles and stuff like that as a kid because that was like our bribery. Uh, and so, but this one day woke up, later in life, in my 20s, woke up in the morning, 3 o'clock morning, was like, you know what, I want to make chocolate for the rest of my life. And at that time I was in my corporate career, been out of school and all of that other stuff. And it just had this, pull, or this draw to want to make chocolate, and became obsessed with learning everything about it. And so I taught myself over the course of a few years, and here we are.
Well, Philip,
Mhm.
okay, it's one thing to work in the corporate world and
Uh-huh.
wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I want to make chocolate.
Right,
It's
right.
another thing to create chocolate the way you create chocolate.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Everybody, we're going to stop for just a minute here because I'm going to pull this up. Uh, I went online and bought,
Oh, thank
okay,
you. Yes,
these,
yes.
yes, I did, and bought these chocolates. Okay. I
Mhm.
saw turtles. I love turtles. Here in
Okay.
Illinois, we have Fannie Mae turtles. Okay. Which is
Yes,
like,
yeah.
yeah, Fannie Mae. Uh-uh.
Hmm.
In this box, you get three types of turtles. Now, if you
Yeah,
can see this, this looks
yeah.
like mini pound cakes. Okay. They don't look like
Right.
turtles, they look like mini pound cakes. And they
Hmm.
are packed full of
Yeah, yeah.
goodness. I'm
Yes, yes,
telling
yes.
you. So, coming from waking up at 3 in the morning
Hmm.
to something like this,
Right.
What was the process? How did you get to there?
Yeah. So it was definitely, so this is 2007 when I began this whole process. So we're talking 15 years now. And my process really began with me. I spent the next 24 months to almost 3 years, and all I did, I never touched any chocolate in terms of making it. All I did was read and read and read about chocolate, trying to find chocolate, um, and how it's made, where it's made, who's making it, what companies are out there, and then even, went down to the science of how are people tasting, what ingredients work together, how do these things react. So I spent a lot of time testing, putting two spices together, or putting this fruit with that, and just testing viscosity and texture and all of these other things and how people taste. So like I'd be like, here, Bunny, taste this and see what reaction you would have, and like the zones of the palate. So, I went into this thing thinking, one, well, how cool would it be to say I'm a chocolatier? How many people can say they know a chocolatier, let alone a black chocolatier? And then two, I really wanted to bring the whole Willy Wonka chocolate factory to life. I was always fascinated with that story, even as a kid. And my approach was, I want to recreate that stick of gum, and the
Mhm.
stick of gum being, the tomato soup, the potatoes, the roast beef, and then even the blueberry pie. And I was like, well, if we can do the blueberry pie and not have you blow up at the end and have to juice you, then we're in good shape. And so that was really the approach, and that's really where and I've always had a big imagination, and so I was like, you know what, why aren't people making chocolates, especially at this time? No one's putting barbecue in the chocolate. I like key lime pie. Let's figure out a key lime pie chocolate. Because back then, and this is going even into the 2010s, which isn't that long ago, but the industry from a chocolate perspective was still a lot different, very traditional in a lot of ways. You had your kind of your staples and that sort of thing, but no one was really kind of testing the boundaries. Like we're known for putting blue cheese in chocolate. We have a collard green chocolate, we have a baked mac and cheese chocolate, a fried chicken chocolate, or we have things with different, with whiskey and bourbon and all of that. And so I really wanted to just be this encyclopedia of flavor and understand food, understand beverage, understand ingredients, spices, herbs, oils, you name it, from, how it's grown, where it's grown, what's the regional impact and all of that. And so be able to just all of that to say, I wanted to be able to tell stories with chocolate. I wanted to be able to say, I don't want to have 10 pieces or 24 pieces and that really just kind of be the totality of what Philip Ashley Chocolates is. I want to be able to work with brands and say, well, what does Cadillac taste like? And, we can create chocolates that are specific and custom to this luxury automaker, or I can create things based on inspired by music or by a show. We did a whole a collection for inspired by Insecure and Issa Rae. So just being able to tell these stories in different ways or perspectives using chocolate as the medium, and how we communicate is really what I was wanting to do. So I didn't want to just understand how to cook per se, but I wanted to understand how to communicate with food. So.
And you definitely do that. But how did okay, you're making chocolate, you're figuring all this stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
How everybody looks at you now and say, "Oh, well, he's one of Oprah's favorites. He does it for the
Mm-hmm.
James Beard, this, that, and the other."
Mm-hmm.
But what was that first thing that someone caught the attention? You caught their attention. What was it?
Doing these things called Soup Sundays in Memphis. One of the things I would do earlier on would do these charitable events, and where we would donate chocolate. I say we, at the time it was really me. And it was like, okay, this is an opportunity for 500 people. We're doing the VIP area because even then I was billing this as a luxury item, and so I was like, I can get people to try, you know my perspective in chocolate. So when we're doing the sweet potato chocolate, or some of the earlier ones like Fuego, which was an ancho chipotle of Mexican vanilla bean, or I had one called Geisha, and we were using basically silver needle tea because I was into teas and stuff like that, using them, rose petals, dried cherries, and things like that in white chocolate. So had these really, from things that are very effervescent, like lavender and vanilla, and aromatic, like the rose petals, because all of those things kind of play on the senses of taste, olfactory being a big one. And then, of course, people eat with their eyes. And so, how we shape them and decorate them, because in those early days, they were still, round. I was doing round chocolates, dipping them in chocolate, and then topping them with stuff. So, anyway, doing the events like that, those were the first opportunities where I would be able to, here, buddy, try this out. And what I would do is, watch your reaction in front of me, how you were reacting to it. But I would really pay attention when you would walk off in the distance and back to your friends, and how, if you were demonstrative, like, oh, you got to go try that, or, trying to read your lips and read your reaction in your body movements, or you're like, you're holding it in your hand so you can get to the trash can and throw it away. So I use those opportunities as observation and focus groups. So, that way, because then no one knew me. They could care
Right.
less about, who's this chocolatier, in terms of like sparing his feelings or anything like that. And so I made sure to use those as ways to find out, is what I'm making something that people will buy. And so when I learned people liked them, and then they liked them enough to buy them, and then do they like them enough to continue to buy them, to give them as gifts, to eat them themselves, and that kind of thing. And so that was kind of the process.
And
Mhm.
how did you know that you had made it? What was that one when you knew I did it?
Yeah. Well, when I started giving people barbecue chocolates and blue cheese chocolates, and people were like, "Yeah, I want more of that," I was like, "Okay, we're on to something." So I've got something going that people are actually wanting to buy. And they know that it's not just some gimmick. Like, I didn't make this barbecue chocolate just to put some, like the jelly bean or something,
Right.
but it's a refined, well put together and composed piece of confection or chocolate. And so, yeah, I think, 2010, 2011 is when I realized, okay, you know, I've got something, and an opportunity. And even it was still, I could have made some decisions from a corporate standpoint and gone in a different direction, and we're not sitting here. So it was definitely a risk. 100 people can tell you they like it all day, but can you get to 1 million people is the question, or 10 million and 20. And so those were the things that were still unanswered. But I had a good sense, and then a lot of it was just like, this is what I want to do, and my gut is telling me, and I was, no one's more critical of what I make than myself, so than I am. And so I felt like what I had was really good, and I knew technically that it worked, because I had put a lot of time in understanding how to formulate ganache, and how to combine these different ingredients. And then from a taste perspective, texture and flavor, I realized that we had something that I could take to market.
Now, on the creative end,
Mm-hmm.
everything is was it hard on the business side for here's a black man who is going to say, I'm going to go into chocolate. No, I'm not going to open up this kind of restaurant or that kind of restaurant. I'm going into chocolate. Was it hard to on the business side to get funding and investors and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think in food and beverage in general, that can be a challenge, but especially going into something that was even more so unfamiliar, like chocolate, because in Memphis, we had a kind of a staple chocolate shop, but it's not something that the average person would come around saying, "Hey, I'm opening up a chocolate company that I'm, making the chocolate on top of that, and then we're going to market it and sell it." And so, yeah, there were some challenges. Fortunately at the time, I had a job that allowed me, some flexibility, in the sense where I was able to, invest money that I'd saved, and I brought on partner early on, to help with some of the initial things, and but so it's just like anything else. I think more of it was just getting people to, those early days. I always say one of the toughest things is to educate a market, particularly when it's a new product and something, at that time, especially, nobody was coming around saying like, hey, try this blue cheese chocolate. But and by the way, you're going to like it. you know, so that was the challenge even more so. And you're just now really starting to see black chocolatiers come online. I've been around now, like I said, for 15 years, and we've been in business. This form, the full Phillip actual chocolates will be 10 years old in November. And so I've definitely seen, there was literally one time where I was the only black guy, out there, especially on selling online.
Mhm.
Um, and now it's cool to really see more and more. And, even with the work that I'm trying to do, or that I'm doing in Africa and Ghana, to kind of bridge, where the cocoa is coming from, and then the artisan piece of it, together, and making sure that uh, area and region is celebrated and receives, what it should, from this industry. And so even my work has evolved. So.
Well, before I let you go, because I know that you have so many more that you have to do today, but let's talk a little bit about your philanthropy.
Mhm.
And I found that's quite interesting that you're with St. Jude's Children Research
Mhm.
and your own and creating your own foundation. Why this particular organization and for you?
Why? Well, I've always been a fan of St. Jude. We've made chocolates for them on several occasions. We did a collection for them. Uh, and then, one, I've just, my mom being in the healthcare industry for a long time. And, thankfully, I've been fortunate to always be in good health, even as a kid. And just so as I was seeing what St. Jude was doing, and then there have been several other, children's hospitals in general, just the work they do is so exceptional, because it takes even more effort, than, when, if you and I are to go into a hospital or need some medical care, it's a lot easier in some sense, because we may be able to communicate, or we have things set up on our behalf to mitigate certain things. But when you have the emotional, um, element of children being sick, and the things that they have to navigate, and the families that are around them. So I was just really impressed and touched with, one, just the type of work that St. Jude does and how powerful it is. And just me as a person in general, the reason why I'm starting a foundation is because, both in that area, but with entrepreneurship, and really seeing, people of color, black people, have greater opportunities to be able to be put in position to start businesses, fund businesses, support businesses through purchasing, from an awareness standpoint and marketing, of the active, black owned companies. So it's just all these things. And so I just feel like giving has always been kind of my love language, if you will. And so, being able to do things and give back, in a meaningful way, and use whatever platform I'm, blessed to have, to say, okay, these are some things that we should pay attention to. These are some things that we should, support with our, financial success, and that sort of thing. Then, I'm happy to do it.
Well, I have to tell everybody, when you go to the website and you look at the wonderful things that he has, I'm going to tell you, I'm a turtle holic. I'm a
Hmm.
chocoholic. Okay.
Okay.
So when I saw the turtles, Philip, I
Yeah.
said, okay, I'm getting those.
Okay.
When I got them home and
Hmm.
opened up the box and saw how, number one, they were shaped,
Uh-huh.
I said, well, dadgum, I can eat three, I can cut these in three pieces and
Right.
have them over time. I took that
Mhm.
first bite of the milk chocolate.
Yeah.
Boo, it never made it to the
Okay.
three. three. I
I
sat
said that was
there
it.
like a glutton. I've never
Okay.
been really into dark chocolate,
Okay.
but you have changed my mind on your dark chocolate isn't that bitter dark chocolate.
Right. Right.
It blends so well.
Yeah.
Now, I gave my cousin the whiskey one,
Okay. Okay.
okay,
Okay.
for her birthday.
Okay.
She didn't eat it for 3 days. Okay.
Okay.
Then she called me up early in the morning and said, "Girl, this whiskey turtle
Yes.
is it's the best thing. Your chocolate is wonderful. It
Thank
blends
you.
well. It's
Thank
worth the price." You
thank
know,
you.
I got to tell everybody it's worth the price because
Yes.
when you eat it, it's an experience. You know,
Yes.
you
And that's
savor this chocolate. So, Philip, I can't wait to taste some of your other things. If I can
yeah.
get past the turtles, I just ordered another box. So,
Okay. Thank you.
so if I can get past my turtles,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I
We
will
have
try
other
some
things
of the
waiting
other
on you.
things.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's really the at the end of the day, we just want people to understand that it is an experience, and we put a lot of time, effort, and quality ingredients into it because we want you to enjoy what you're experiencing and feel like the money you spent is just, hey, that's a part of it, and it's well worth it because I'm getting something out of it. And like I said, we make sure that they're massive on top of that, particularly with the turtles. So they're big. They're 4 ounces a piece. So you definitely get a lot. So
And you
yeah.
get a lot of kind of nuts. I love
Yes,
nuts
yes. So
and
we
caramel
pack them.
and
Yes, we pack them.
yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
everything's handcrafted. We roast the nuts here. We make our own caramel. So and obviously we do the couverture. And so yeah, it's one of those things that it's a handcrafted piece. And I always say chocolate is definitely, I said giving earlier, but ultimately chocolate is my love language. And so, we just want you to enjoy it.
Well, I'm totally in love with it. Go to the
Thank you.
website, philipashleychocolates.com. Check it
Yes,
out. Dudes, if you want to impress your woman, go on
absolutely.
there and get it.
Yes.
Women, if you want to impress your hips, go ahead and order it for yourself. You understand?
Yes, yes.
Well,
Well, thank
thank you
you.
so much, Philip. I appreciate you. And everybody, until next time, keep your eye to the sky.